Good afternoon and welcome to the Senate Committee on Government Operations meeting for Tuesday, March 25th, as we near the end of yet another month. I believe that's Tuesday is April 1. Two things up for action today. We begin with S81, an act relating to prohibiting municipal regulation of the use of hygienic face masks. And again, we're past crossover, so many of these bills that we will be taking up don't necessarily just taking them up doesn't mean that they will be passed this year into law. It could mean that we attach something to something else down the road, or it could mean that they just stay on until next year. But with that said, I'd like to welcome Tucker Anderson up and to join us and explain what this bill does. It's a fairly short bill.
This is one of Congress bills.
I did note that 15 of the 30 senators have co-sponsored this, including two members of this committee. So welcome, Tucker. It's always good to see you.
Likewise, good afternoon, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. You have in front of you S81 as introduced. There is one operative section to this bill. Section 1, which adds 24 VSA section 2295A. This section governs the authority of municipal and county governments to regulate hygienic face masks. You move on to page 2, you will see the language of the section, which states that except as otherwise provided by law, no municipal corporation, by ordinance, resolution, rule, or other enactment shall directly limit or prohibit the use of hygienic face masks. So this is a prohibition on any form of municipal regulation that would limit or altogether prohibit the use of a hygienic face mask within that municipality's jurisdiction. This language directly mirrors the existing language in 24 VSA section 2295, which limits municipal regulation of the possession or use of firearms. So this is the same language, just swapping in hygienic face masks. If the committee has any questions about some of the discrete things that are in here, for example, why the list of municipal regulations is so long, like the types of regulatory authority they have, happy to jump into it. Otherwise, the only other piece that I have to note for you is that section 2 is a piece of transitional law here, expressly superseding any provisions of charter that are inconsistent with this newly proposed section 2295A, and that the effective date is July 1st, 2025.
So I have, go ahead, Senator White, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you giving me deference on that. So I do have a couple questions because we're Dillon's rural state, and I guess I did co-sponsor this bill. I support it, but I'm confused slightly on why we would need it, because it feels like that would be something that a charter would have to come to us to ask for potentially. But I also, as you pointed out, there's ordinances, resolutions, rules. So I'm wondering, is this necessary because municipalities do have the authority to do this now and we need to change that? Or is this really just kind of clarifying that that's the case?
So I think it's an open question as to whether this authority already exists for municipalities. The one discrete area of law where they may have authority is within local health rule authority that they have.
Okay.
Right, like the local board of health,
Yeah.
and the local health officer adopting a rule that must be first consistent with the rulemaking authority that has been delegated to the Vermont Department of Health. And then second, that any local health rule has to also be approved expressly by the Commissioner of Health. That's the one discrete area where a municipality might have some authority to regulate hygienic face masks broadly. I'm not certain that that authority could be interpreted broadly enough to allow a municipal corporation under current law to prohibit the use of hygienic face masks within their municipal corporation. You are correct that the most likely avenue for this sort of authority would be through a charter proposal. They would have to get approved by the General Assembly anyway.
Okay, that's That's really helpful. And is there a difference between, I know you say hygienic in here specifically. I think what I'm familiar with is in like France where they've banned face masks, but it's like a roundabout way to make sure women don't wear certain religious.
Like he
Well, exactly, like hijabs or even in certain cases like burqas. So I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to that piece, if hygienic face masks, why specifically hygienic face masks and not just face masks in this? And is there a way that they could go around this by having just not allowing face masks?
I'll answer the first question first, because I think the second question might be far more complicated really to dive into. So I didn't choose the policy.
Yeah,
Bill, obviously,
or yeah,
it was my understanding from policy direction that this was in relation to some municipalities in the country banning the use specifically of hygienic face masks, or banning the mandates from local businesses or other forms of municipal corporations such as school districts from mandating the use of hygienic face masks. So in response to that, that term of art, which is not defined here, a good note, hygienic face mask was chosen to specifically call out that we are talking about a face covering that is worn for hygienic purposes and not right.
okay.
And
So then that kind of the second question.
to jump into your second question, that raises a whole host of other potential concerns and challenges if a municipality were to try to, for example, prohibit the use of religious face coverings. We do have some very wonderful protections under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Okay, so that
Likely
it's harder for them to.
analysis.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
I'll go in front of Senator Clarkson if it's okay. I just want you to be able to enjoy. County government. I noticed that that's included here. I'm trying to think of an example where a county government entity would supersede a municipal one.
It is also hard for me to try to picture what sort of body we would be talking about at the county level that would be adopting law.
But we have county courts,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure they enact ordinances on their own.
The language in 2295, not 2295A, the existing statute governing municipal regulation of firearms refers to county government as well. So trying not to frustrate any interpretation of these two sections side by side, I used the same scope,
Okay.
right? But I would agree that it's hard for you to picture what sort of regulatory authority would be exercised by a county government in this area.
They could do it over courtrooms, for example. You know, they could say they would.
I guess they have jurisdiction inside their own court.
I think the assistant judges have jurisdiction over the county in Suffolk County. They do.
I don't know, it just kind of like went.
Yeah, I know, it's a
Government.
surprise.
The other piece that I just had a question and please jump in
I
after.
know.
In section 2, the wording consistent. So I'm trying to think of a place that exists right now in the state of Vermont that might have an inconsistent policy. I'm not aware of any.
I'm not aware of any that are specific to hygienic face
Okay.
masks, but this would also supersede any general authority that has been granted in a municipal charter to govern, the use of medical devices, medical equipment. That would grant broader authority for a municipality to regulate health issues, for example. And I have been working in municipal law and the charters for 8 years with you all now, and I am still constantly surprised when I crack open, the Village of Swanton Charter and find some very interesting niche area of law that they have been granted authority to regulate on the local level. not to pick on Swan, it was a random
No,
example,
it's
but
true.
there
Every
are
now and then.
90 municipal charters codified in Title 24 appendix, everything from cities, towns, and villages to solid waste management districts and
Fire
water
districts.
districts and fire districts. And the General Assembly has delegated a great deal of legislative authority to those municipal corporations in the charters. So these sort of superseding transitional provisions attempt to cover anything within Title 24 appendix that would be inconsistent with this limitation on authority.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the intent here was to preemptively establish a standard in case there were examples that we don't ever seem to know about, well, that might come in conflict with it. And I realize there are other states in the country that have done something similar to prohibiting the use of them. So,
Yeah.
you know, it just, okay, I get it. Did you have another question, Senator?
No, I was, before Tucker answered Becca, I was just gonna say the problem we're trying to solve, I believe, having heard Tanya say this, the problem we're trying to solve with this is trying to, that we'd heard that there were towns that were wanting to move to prohibit their citizens being able to wear hygienic face masks, and that we would want to preemptively not allow that to happen for a bunch of reasons. So, yeah, that's all all that's being accomplished here. I don't think it's any more than that.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Clarkson. I think that was the point for why I was willing to co-sponsor was Senator he had mentioned that there was a woman who had an immune deficiency who was very concerned that she had heard information that her town was potentially moving forward with the consideration for this. And she was concerned, obviously, because she's immune compromised. So the fact that she would be denied the ability to wear a face mask, whether or not we're talking COVID or just the flu, like your ability to wear a face mask is your own decision.
Yes.
At this point. And I would strongly encourage anyone who feels unwell to make that decision. So I appreciate this proactive step. And I haven't heard the exact example of what town that was or further details on that. But to your point, there are other places in our country who are moving in this direction. And if you're thinking any kind of respiratory illness that could be spread, this is something that could help prevent individual municipalities from making unwise decisions. I mean, I think measles, we have a case of measles in our state right now, is my understanding.
We do.
We have more than one now.
That's very concerning. We're not, don't mind the pun, but we're not immune from this scenario playing out.
So, and
Yes,
and I just would add, here in the State House, since post-COVID, people are so thoughtful about wearing a face mask when they're ill. It's so great. Just sort of like our Asian colleague, Asian counterparts, where the use of face masks is routine.
Yeah.
We now happily in the State House, people are very thoughtful and wear face masks when they're ill, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think I heard, now maybe I don't have anything to back this up, but there was a significant decrease in flu numbers while we were going through that period of time.
Yeah, there was.
I don't know that it prevents you from getting a cold, but it probably can't hurt if you're wearing a mask and you have a cold.
Yeah, as long as you wash your hands too, you're fine.
And I don't think it impinges on anybody's right to not wear one.
Yes.
I mean, you're making your own personal decision, so
Could we, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, I believe Dr. Levine has retired at this point or is officially stepped
it's
down.
the process of.
Well, I would love to hear from him or from someone related to like the statewide rules that we had set during COVID, because I do think it's important context for us to move forward
Yeah,
with this.
well,
Or if there's a relevant medical professional.
Yeah.
Dr. Levine got me through COVID, so I always think about him in that regard. But if there's another relevant medical expert, I think it would be.
I'm sure Jillian has overheard you and
She's
she's nodding her head, so I think we'll have some testimony from the Department of Health
And I don't know if there's a bill that I see on our wall that's moving or that's coming from the House that is a great vehicle for this, but I could be wrong. I don't know if there's a germane.
Yeah.
I could speak with the chair of Senate Health and Welfare. It seemed like there'd be a connection.
That's a good, I hadn't even thought about that.
Should we decide to go forward? I'm not saying we will or we won't. Again, just for information purposes, one of the members of the committee won't be here at all this week. So I hesitate to do too much without the full committee being able to kind of weigh in on it, but
You could give it a tur bill.
well, I guess we do surmise what might be her vote on the bill. Yeah, I don't think it is controversial. It is bipartisan. There was a member of both parties that co-signed on it.
It's tripartisan.
Ah, good point. Very good point. Anything else for Tucker?
Well,
Yes.
I guess I would just, if you could put your antenna up and see if actually, if the town has actually voted on this yet.
I will raise the antenna later this afternoon.
That would be great. Because if one has actually happened, I think I'm even more concerned. Thanks.
Thank you. Always great to see you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so more to come on S81. Next up is S119. This is a bill that has to do with the licensure of early childhood educators. And we will be taking this up almost every day this week, with the exception of tomorrow, I get. No,
No, we're on tomorrow.
and Thursday, and by golly, it's on for Friday. So we will be able to take some pretty thoughtful and robust is another word
Is
we
that
love to
email
use
to your
here.
lady?
Thank
They're going to be walking out of Central Vermont Hospital for bargaining reasons. They're having a big rally on Saturday. Staff is walking out.
Oh, okay, I missed the first part of that.
Central Vermont Hospital, staff is walking out because
Okay.
of bargaining problems. They're having problems with staffing issues. They're having problems. They're underpaid. They're,
Okay, what, does that have anything to do with?
I'm gonna take it down to Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
So at some point, tomorrow morning, I'll talk to her about it. But yeah, they're having a protest. The whole staff is walking out of the hospital. They're having problems with verbal and physical abuse in the hospital as well.
okay.
So yeah, they're having a lot of issues.
Why don't we take a 10-minute break? Lauren Hibbert and Jen Collin will be in next to
Yeah.
testify on